So what's the Grape Explorer talking about today? So we were on our journey on what we call the area, it's Eastern Europe, and we've got a lot of countries to cover. And if you've been following us, you know, we did Turkey, we did Armenia, we did also the Ukraine. Now we're going to talk about the oldest country to produce wines on this Mother Earth, and it's called Georgia. We're not talking about the state of Georgia, we are talking about the country of Georgia. And why is this the oldest country? Well, it's one of those historical places where they actually discovered where they had winemaking equipment back 6,000 years ago, where they were actually making wine. And what's interesting about this country, and we'll get into this a little bit of how they actually age the wines in ceramic vessels, which they made from clay. But there was, if you've never had a chance to see it, there was a beautiful 60 minutes on the country of Georgia and the winemaking and the history, which goes back and dated also with the monks and with also Eastern Orthodox Christianity that was creating a lot of wines as well. But 6,000 years of history, this was long before Jesus came. So we're talking about a beautiful history. So we want to spend time on what we call the most important grape which exists, which is called Saperavi. And this is a winery that's actually, if you can pinpoint it right here, where it's located in the Kakheti region. And this is where Saperavi grape is grown. It's the most important grape. It's served with all different types of Georgian cuisine, from pork and beef grilled sausages and aged. And they also do duck like in France. But when you taste this wine, it's really interesting. And I wanted to highlight this because, and I wanted to give a shout out to one of our friends who I met in Florida, the Dorstev family, and Artie and his dad, Eugene. Actually, the dad was the first one to import Georgian wines to this country. They were what we call the founding fathers of importers to represent Georgian wines. So we do want to give a shout out to Eugene and Artie Dorstev, who I know they're personal friends. I knew them in Florida when I first started working for another company who was bringing in Georgian wines. I was really fascinated about Georgian wines because I never knew these wines before. And then, you know, they had a lot of detailed information about the history, and they showed, again, these amphora, which they aged the wines in this ceramic pot clays, which are used now all over the world, by the way. So a lot of people are aging wines more in amphora. But I wanted to talk about this grape because this is a very distinctive grape. It's very Georgian, but you know, you can find some of this in the Finger Lakes. You can find some of this grape existing now in Adelaide in Australia. So it is starting to venture out a little bit, but it's a beautiful grape. You get a lot of that red kind of plum kind of like nuances that I really enjoy, almost like a little bit of a Merlot kind of style. You get a lot of that spice too. These are very mineral tone wines because the soil composition here has got a lot of that beautiful terroir like we have in Bordeaux. But let's taste the wine. You do get a lot of that plum, kumquat, interesting flavors. These wines historically are under $15 a bottle, so it's a dry wine, so don't think that this wine has anything to do with anything that's sweet. But I would akin this to a Merlot as far as my style. It's not as heavy as Cabernet, but yeah, I want to pinpoint this area here because I feel that Georgia, the country of Georgia, is just not that well known by Americans. But right now, the wines are becoming more and more popular in the United States based on a beautiful documentary from 60 Minutes, where they actually dived in and they interviewed some of the up-and-coming winemakers. I wanted to highlight this wine again because I have friends that are importers of Georgian wine, so I wanted to give a shout out to them. And also, I also wanted to highlight the place that I bought this wine. It's called Best Buy Liquors, which is in Brighton Beach. And Victoria, who runs that store, is very energetic. If you ever want to get to Brooklyn and you want to go to what I consider to be one of the biggest selections of wines, especially international wines in all of New York, in the metro area of New York, take a little jaunt out there. You see her store. It's a huge store, but she has wines from all different countries, like I said, Georgia and Armenia. But she's very passionate about these wines from Georgia. And she wanted to highlight, and she said, David, taste this wine. and tell me what you think, because I think it's a winner. And she's right. This wine is just a gorgeous bottle of wine that I think you can drink every day. Might not be available in the whole USA, but if you ever want to contact Best Buy, they'll find a way to get you the wine. If you really want to enjoy anything like this and you're out of the New York metro area. Again, this is the Grape Explorer. We're talking about grapes. We're talking about grape varietals. We're talking about culture, and we're talking about beautiful, beautiful wines.